if you were to look at virtually every single ethical catastrophe of the past 10 or 20 years, for that matter, probably forever, at the root of every single one, you will find a lack of humility. You will find arrogance. You will find people who think the rules don't apply to them, that they're better than everybody else. In business, Enron, WorldCom, in politics, in world affairs, in church affairs, personal failures. Almost every single time you see a spectacular ethical crash and burn, prior to that, you will see a lack of humility. I'm Joe Ty, CEO of Values Coach, and your coach for this 60-module series on the 12 core action values. And today we're going to cover humility, which is the third cornerstone of integrity. And humility really is a key element of integrity. If somebody is arrogant, if somebody doesn't listen, if somebody thinks they're above the rules, if somebody thinks they're better than everybody else, can you trust that person? Do you respect that person? Do you see that person as a pillar of integrity? Probably not. And for good reason. Because when you see that sort of arrogance, chances are you're seeing an ethical failure in the making. And the antidote to hubris, hubris, the pride that comes before the fall. The antidote to hubris is humility. Now, this is something that does not come naturally to most people. We like to see ourselves as being different, special. How can you be the center of the universe? Because I am. Yes, the whole road does belong to me. That's just human nature. But let's talk about some of the reasons why humility is in your advantage and talk about some of the things you can do to be a more humble person. First of all, if you're in business, if you're running a business, if you're a manager, humility is the essence of servant leadership. Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, talks about level 5 leadership. And he says one of the key elements of level 5 leaders is humility. One of the essential elements of servant leadership is humility. Arrogant people, non-humble people, tend not to listen. They tend not to invite feedback. They tend to discourage feedback. You don't want to tell somebody who's arrogant that their shoes are tied wrong. Marshall Goldsmith, in his book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, he's one of the top executive coaches around, talks about this extensively in that book. And he says, if you're arrogant, if you're not willing to listen, you're setting yourself, you will not get there. You will not achieve your goals. Second is that humility is an essential element of building positive relationships. There's so much wisdom in AA. And one of the wisest elements of AA, I think, has to do with humility. And it's called the principle of mutuality. And what it means is this, that one alcoholic working with another makes it very clear. If I'm the recovering alcoholic, your sponsor trying to help you, I make it very clear, I am not doing this just because you need it. That would be paternalistic. That would be condescending. Rather, they say, I'm doing it because the only way I can stay sober is helping other people, including you, be sober. And that creates a level playing field. When Harold, the hard-driving CEO, has to stand in front of a room and say, I'm Harold and I'm an alcoholic, he puts himself at the same level as the guy who's going to go from the meeting to the soup kitchen. And that's the principle of mutuality. It's humility. We're all in this together. We're all children of the same God. And that gets me to another video that I did that I hope you'll look. You can find it on YouTube. And it's called What's in a Hat? It's about a 2-minute video. And what I did is I just put on different hats. And I know when I put on different hats, you make different assumptions about me. It's human nature. Most of the assumptions, though, are wrong. And what that gets to is the real secret to humility is to bite that mental tongue anytime you start judging another person. Here's a good example. I'll talk later about extravagant generosity. You're driving down the road, you pull up, and there's a guy on the side of the road that says, we'll work for food or whatever. And many of us know that that's not true. He won't work for food. He just wants a handout. So here's what I challenge you to do. Drive up, roll down your window, give the guy a $5 or a $10 bill. What's he or she going to say? Chances are 9 out of 10 they're going to say, God bless. First thing I'd say is, imagine, is it really him talking, or is it maybe God talking through that person? But then ask yourself this question. Put yourself in the shoes of being a manager at a fast food restaurant, and 2 people come in and apply for a job to mop a floor. The person on the side of the road with the sign, or some young bright kid who's trying to make money for college. Who are you more likely to hire? And so anytime you catch yourself saying, well, you know, they ought to go get a job, chances you haven't put yourself in that person's shoes. And doing that can be a real exercise in humility. Now let me say one last thing about humility. I am not talking about low self-esteem. In fact, quite to the contrary. Humble people tend to have very high self-esteem. They have a high regard for their abilities and for who they are. The most unjust word in the English language is often the word just, as in I'm just a housekeeper, just a stay-at-home mom. I mean, what could be more honorable than those things? And so I'm telling you that humility can be an important part of enhancing your self-esteem, not diminishing your self-esteem. Now, in the next module, we're going to talk about the 4th cornerstone of integrity, which is stewardship. I'll see you then.